Hey dude, hope you enjoy the full recap of Windbreaker's first season. So let's get into the video. Sakura Haruka is a high school student who lives life on his own terms, but ends up being ignored by everyone at school. One morning, he sees a woman being harassed by a bunch of guys who are already way too old for this crap. She's holding a box full of eggs, so it's clear she's got stuff to do. But these dudes don't care, and keep asking her to hang out with them. These guys are literally committing a crime. Look at the crime. She says no, and tells the leader she'd throw the eggs in his face if it wasn't such a waste. But she has no time for trash like him and his friends. So she starts to leave, but the leader can't take no for an answer and grabs her arm, hurting her. And that's when Sakura steps in. At first, he tries to be polite and handle things reasonably, asking the group's leader to stop, because it's too early to be doing stupid stuff. But of course, logical reasoning isn't exactly this guy's strong suit. So he tries to attack Sakura and ends up eating a well-placed punch, to stop clowning around. Then he gets beaten so badly the cameraman had to cut the scene. When the camera comes back, Sakura is standing over him, calling him and his friends weak. He's not afraid to fight, so if anyone has a problem with him, they should remember he's Sakura Haruka from Bofren. Then he just leaves without a word, completing his big moment. The girl who watched all this finally snaps out of it and runs after him. She grabs his arm and thanks him for saving her. But Sakura is confused because no one has ever thanked him before. His brain short circuits and he automatically goes into serious mode, saying he didn't do it for her, but because he was pissed at the way that guy was acting. The girl ignores his little speech and asks if he's hungry. Sakura says no, but who can resist a good omelet, right? Nobody, especially when it's made by a pretty lady. So he ends up at her cafe while they're talking. She figures out that Sakura isn't from town, which explains why she's never seen him before. There have been a lot of gang fights in the area lately, and regular people usually avoid the place. She introduces herself as Tagami. Sakura is still trying to understand why this girl is being so nice to him, since most people would be scared of someone who took on 5 guys, so yeah, if I see a guy throwing hands with 5 dudes, I'm surprised. Not sure if scared, cause he didn't come at me. She asks if he's going to eat the food she made, since he hasn't taken a bite yet. So Sakura starts eating and loves it. As he's swallowing, Togami comments on how he looks unique, because half his hair is a different color, but she figures that's just his style. Her face gets really close to his and Sakura panics and backs away. This guy's scared of women. How embarrassing. After calming down, he says he's surprised she doesn't think he's weird, since most people call him a freak. Togami thinks his look is normal because she's used to seeing people with way worse fashion choices. But Sakura sighs and asks if his appearance has something to do with why he came to this place. Sakura says she's right, because here looks don't matter in a fight. Since Bofren is famous for having the dumbest students and the best fighters, fights happen every day to decide who's in charge. And Sakura is also part of the Little Dumbasses Club. So, this school is his only chance to make a name for himself. Tagami now understands Sakura's motivations, but that doesn't stop her from teasing him for being so excited about school that he wore the uniform a day before it started. Sakura denies it, but his embarrassment just tells Togami she's right. While they're getting along, an old guy named Yamada finishes his meal and is about to leave. Before he goes, Sakura notices he forgot his bag and goes to return it. The guy is really kind. He acts all tough, but he's a good dude. Then Togami comes over and says she thanked Sakura, so he wanted her to give him a candy. Sakura still isn't used to being thanked, so he asks why people are being so nice to him. Normally, people just look at him and think he's a delinquent. They get all wary. Yeah, in Japan, people are weird. One time he tried to return someone's wallet and ended up with the police because the person thought he had stolen it. Togami says he made the right choice coming to Bofren, but the way he is now, there's no way he can beat anyone, let alone be the top dog. For a simple reason, he might be strong, but he's alone and will just end up getting beaten up. Hearing her say he's alone gets to Sakura, so he angrily replies that he's not weak and that he doesn't need to depend on anyone to win a fight. She admits he might have strength, but it would be good if he met other guys from Bofren to understand what she means. My dude, you don't know what you're getting into. You're strong, but hold your horses. Alright, the world is a big place. Well, heading back home, Sakura is confronted by the gang leader from before, and this time he brought the whole crew just to beat Sakura up. He's not in the mood to deal with this, so he tries to ignore them and leave. But the leader looks at him and starts making fun of his appearance. Honestly, this is what Sakura was expecting, because this is the type of guy he's dealt with his whole life, always looking at him with disgust. So he gave up on trying to fit in, and if the world wants him to be a delinquent, then that's what he'll be. That's right, Sakura. You tell him. You're right. He punches the guy and goes after the whole gang at once and is actually winning. They keep coming at him, but even with some armed with bats, he keeps dodging the attacks and taking down the gang members, while their collective IQ plummets. Pretty dumb. Huh, dumb. Meanwhile, Togami was inside the diner cleaning dishes, and even though it was none of her business, this idiot decided it was a great idea to go out and see what was happening. Girl, chill, stop doing dumb stuff. She ends up getting grabbed and threatened with a knife to make Sakura drop his guard. However, as soon as Sakura sees Togami in danger, he does some cool acrobatics and takes the guy down before he gets a chance to use the knife. One guy tries to sneak up from behind, but he's not gonna let that happen, and he kicks the dude in the face, slamming him against the wall. He keeps hitting the guys, but having to protect Togami is limiting the damage he can do. If this keeps up, he's gonna get cornered. He doesn't even know why he's helping her, since he barely knows her. While he's fighting, one of the guys he knocked out earlier wakes up and grabs the knife that fell. He cuts Sakura's ankle, and Sakura almost takes a bat to the head from another guy. Bud manages to dodge at the last second. With a hurt ankle, his mobility is going to be really limited and he won't be able to dodge the next attack. So he just braces himself to get hit. However, before the bat can make him any dumber than he already is, another guy shows up, also wearing the Bofrin uniform. He thanks Sakura for protecting Togami, who's happy to see him. He asks her not to tell their boss she was in danger, so he doesn't get super pissed. But now that he's here, he'll make sure the situation gets handled. He grabs a bat from a gang member and punches him in the face, knocking the guy out. Then, he turns to the other Shu are there, since his friends have arrived. These punks are making a mess in town with their nonsense and they are gonna have to pay for it. The gang is clearly scared, since they were already struggling with one guy and now have to face for more. There's no backing out now, so they all attack at once. Even knowing they don't stand a chance, all the Bofrin guys are just as tough as Sakura. He's awesome. Sorry. So this fight is a total beatdown. One guy tries to go after Sakura and with his ankle hurt, he can't dodge in time. Luckily Haru jumps in and kicks the dude, slamming him against the wall. He tells Sakura to stay out of it if he's hurt, because he won't be able to protect him if he jumps in. Sakura just stands there, stunned, while people start cheering for the Bofrin guys to beat up the enemy gang so they can get on with their lives. This is nothing like what Sakura expected when he came to this town, and he never imagined the people here would be so supportive of Bofrin. Togami then explains to him that when she said gangs made this place dangerous, that was only true until about 2 years ago. Everything changed because of the Bofuri students. They took the town's security into their own hands and put up a notice board at the entrance. Anyone dumb enough to cause trouble in town would leave with more brain damage than they came with, because they are Reethi Town's shield, also known as the Windbreakers. That's why the townspeople love them so much. Funny how there's no police, no government, nothing, so a bunch of 15-year-old kids are in charge. Awesome, that's us. Animal, for you, it's true, they were a bunch of delinquents 2 years ago. But that was 2 years ago, and now they're loved by everyone here. Sakura can't help but feel a little jealous, because even though they fight like this, these guys are still accepted by everyone like they're heroes. Meanwhile, all he's ever gotten is scorn. He's still in shock when the townspeople turn their attention to him and start thanking him for holding off the gang until everyone else arrived. With his ankle hurt, an old lady offers to do some first aid, but all this kindness is too much for him to process. So Sakura has another freak out. Togami understands why he's acting like this. So she takes over the first aid and says she gets that he's alone, but that he didn't choose to be that way. No matter what circumstances led to it, he doesn't have to give up on the people here because they need him. Sakura doesn't know how to respond, so instead, he takes off running towards the crowd, and for like 10 feet in the air, he transitions into a dropkick right in the face of the gang leader who was trying to get close to Haru. He's not sure how he feels about this whole hero thing, but if people are going to accept him for who he is, then he'll fight to defend the town. The next day, Sakura shows up at the diner, where Granny's all excited but also kinda crazy, and asks if he has a stomachache. Out of nowhere, old lady Sato appears on Sakura's back after making him carry her all over town. He tells her to get down, but the old lady says she can't because of a backache. Sakura almost loses it, but the lady decides to get down on her own, leaving him even more pissed. Granny tries to lighten the mood by offering 2 egg sandwiches with seasonal fruit, since it's his first day of school at Furin. Sakura is scowling because he left early to take a walk and ended up being a pack mule. Then this weird guy, Nirei, tripping and falling flat on his face. The kid is all vain and asks what they think of his look for the ceremony. Sakura notices the uniform still has the tag on it, and Nirei gets all embarrassed. Nirei starts asking where Sakura's from, since no one's ever seen him before, and he's curious about the kid's different hair and eyes. Granny explains that Sakura is new in town, and at Furin Nirei goes on a speech about how Furin is like a troop of heroes that protects town, but makes it clear that Sakura, being a nobody from the outside, won't make it to the top. Sekiro claps back, saying that's exactly what he wants, to be the strongest. Nirei laughs and warns him he'll go bald from trying so hard. After some back and forth, Nairei leaves, but not before banging his head on the door. Granny laughs at the situation and tries to get Sakura to think about not judging others just by their looks. Using the coffee fruit as an example, which looks like one thing but Sakura kinda ignores the advice and asks if Nairei is any good in a fight. Granny realizes the kid only thinks about throwing hands. On the street, Sakura gets a free loaf of bread from a baker, who thanks the Furin for protecting the town. Awkward, but accepts the bread. As he walks, Sakura reflects on how the Furin are respected, but still finds it weird to be treated well. He's used to being rejected, so all this kindness is new to him. Then Hor stumbles into a situation. Nairei is being cornered by a gang. Sakura, without even meaning to, ends up saving Thekid with an epic flying kick. Nairei is impressed and says he was always beaten up at his old school, until a Furin member saved him. He admires the Furin for being strong and kind, and wants to be like that too. Sakura kinda awkwardly says Nairei isn't as pathetic as he thinks. In the end, the girl Nairei saved shows up to thank him and Sakura tries to slip away, but Nairei calls him back to do a weird questionnaire about his height. Wait, and what type of girl hell likes? Sakura smacks the kid on the head and tells him to stop the nonsense. Nairei explains he likes collecting dating people he thinks are cool, and the scene ends with Sakura thinking that maybe he's starting to understand what it means to be part of Furin, and Sabajan's Sakura's adventure. The kid everyone thought was useless, but who's about to become the town's hero. Nairei, that weird, vain guy, decides to show Sakura around town, pointing out the cool spots and important people. They head to Furin High, where a corridor of cherry blossom trees welcomes them. Sakura, of course, is more interested in eating some fried bread from the corner shop than entering the school, but Nairei insists and ends up dragging him inside. Sakura expects to find some Tao guys, like the ones he fought with the day before, but discovers he's in the same class as Nairei Suo, Kiru, and Zuge, who he doesn't really know. Nairei gets all excited, but Sakura couldn't care less about who his classmates are. He just wants to get to the top, even if it means beating up everyone. Along the way, when Sakura enters the classroom, everyone looks at him with a tough guy stare. Suo, one of the seniors, approaches and tells everyone that Sakura was the hero of the fight the day before, protecting the town. This makes everyone crowd around him, and Sakura, who isn't used to positive attention, gets kind of flustered. He blurts out that he wants to reach the top. Then a kid named Sugishita, who's known as the strongest in the class, immediately goes after him. The two almost throw down, but are interrupted by a speech from Rajin Yumeya, the leader of Furin, who's more worried about talking about scratch-offs and the beach than scolding them. After the speech, Sakura realizes that the Furin have a unity and a sense of belonging. He starts to think that since he arrived in town, people aren't looking at him with scorn anymore. Even Sugishita, who is Radaido fight, ends up offering his hand in a gesture of peace. Even if Sakura still thinks all this is kinda weird. Then, fun part begins. The Furin crew heads out to patrol the town, painting over graffiti and helping out Thelicals. Sakura thinks this is all kinda boring, cause he just wants to fight. But Hiragi, one of the leaders, explains that their role is to protect The-town, not start trouble. Meanwhile, Sakura checks out the territory of Shishatoran, a rival gang with this crazy philosophy of absolute faith in power. They almost get into it, but Sakura, of course, is already ready. The door down and start a war. In the end, the leader of Furin Yumeya sorts it all out with a chat and some jokes about peppers, showing he's the guy who keeps the peace. Even when everyone's ready to throw down, Sakura starts to understand that being strong isn't just about fighting, but also about protecting others and being part of something big. And right in the middle of all this, there's a challenge between the leaders of the two gangs with scheduled one-on-one fights. Sakura's pumped to face the leader of Shishatoran, but in the end, he realizes that maybe the real challenge is learning to trust others and be part of a team. And of course, all of this while he's grabbing a quick bite at Granny's diner, who can't stop lying at the messes he gets into. And then the story continues with Sakura thinking that come eat was just an invitation to stuff his face at the restaurant. But Yumeya, the leader of Furin, explains that it's actually a group ritual. They always meet up there before fights to relax and get ready. Meanwhile, Yumeya shows up at the cafe all excited, showing Granny the little sprouts he's growing for the summer. Nairei comments that Granny is Thebas's favorite, which makes Sakura ask way too loudly if the two are dating. Yumeya explains that Granny is like a sister to him since they were raised together in the same orphanage. Sakura is relieved, and Granny lets out an awkward little jiggle. While the group eats, Hiragi starts reflecting on Shishatoran's past, the rival gang. He says that back in the day they were a serious faction that sought real power, but now under the command of Toma and Yoga Mathov become a bunch of clueless troublemakers. Yumeya agrees, but says they'll only know what's really going on at the showdown the next day. Sakura, of course, just wants to fight and asks if it's going to be a brawl or a debate. Yumeya replies that sometimes fists speak louder than words. The next day, the Furin crew crosses a tunnel that divides the territories and enter Shishitoran's turf. Sakura realizes that for the first time, he isn't just fighting for himself, but for the whole group. That makes him feel a different kind of pressure, but also a bigger motivation. When they arrive at the showdown spot, Toma greets them like they're old friends, all excited, as if it's an amusement park. The place is full of bars and has a kinda chaotic vibe, which makes Naire imagine the mess it must be at night. The first fight starts between Sugishita and Kugahara. Sugishita, who's kinda fanatical about Yumiya, gets pissed when Kugahara insults the Furin leader. He loses his focus and Takisa punch, but then recovers and beats the crap out of Kugahara, leaving everyone impressed. Toma, the leader of Shishitoran, even applauds Sugishita's strength, showing he's more interested in seeing a good fight than protecting his own allies. The next fight is between Suo and Minoru. Suo, who's known for being kind but extremely strong, humiliates Minoru the whole fight, showing a crazy difference in skill. He keeps mocking Minoru, telling him he needs to grow up and learn to put himself in other people's shoes. In the end, he throws a kick that doesn't even hit Minoru, but hurts more than any physical blow because it comes with a lesson. To be an adult, you need to learn to empathize with others. Meanwhile, Sakura was watching everything and thinking about how he's starting to understand that fighting isn't just about being the strongest, but also about protecting others and being part of something bigger. He's still kinda confused by it all, but he's starting to feel that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't have to be alone to reach the top. After teaching Minoru a lesson in humility, Suo ends the fight with another teaching. To be an adult, you need to turn your fantasies into reality. He's ready to continue the beatdown. But Jagami, the vice leader of Shishitoran, calls it off. Toma, the leader of Shishitoran, wakes up from his nap and didn't even see the fight. Minoru tries to convince he can still fight, but Thieves leader tells him to stop embarrassing the gang and even declares that Minoru isn't one of them anymore. Suo, before leaving the ring, just drops one more lesson. Being an adult is about caring for others' feelings, even if you don't change completely. He thinks Minoru climbed at least one step on the ladder of maturity. The Shishitoran audience, which was all arrogant before, is now scared of seeing anyone else from the gang get beaten up like the first. Yumiya praises Suo, who humiliated Minoru with a strange kindness, almost like a kung fu master. An excited Nairi asks if that was kung fu or aikido, but Suo explains it's a mix of several styles. Hiragi comments that Suo is more emotional than usual, and Suo admits that Sakura got into his head. Speaking of Sakura, the kid just wants to know when it's his turn to fight, and Suo is already fed up with him saying that all the time. Meanwhile, Minoru tries to carry Kugahara, who's all beat up, but ends up dropping him on the ground. Kugahara wakes up and asks if Minoru lost to, and Minoru just repeats that it's over. Toma, however, is more excited than ever, ready to fight Yumiya. Jogam ignores the leader and calls the next fighters. Sakura stands up all pumped, but they point to Hiragi, who's next up in the ring. Irija faces Sakota, one of the strongest in Shishitoran. It's an intense fight with Sakota showing impressive esp, but Hiragi holds his own and even lands a punch that almost takes him down. In the middle of the fight, Sakura gets pissed because Hiragi is underestimating Sakota, and Suo says that Sakura is finally worried about his friends. Yumiya explains that Hiragi is one of the 4 heavenly kings of Furin, known as Tramontina, the god of war. Hiragi, even after taking a kick from Sakota, shows he's far from defeated. Sees that in the past he was the nerd who got bullied, until he learned to fight and became a leader. Sakota, on the other hand, admired Hiragi and wanted to follow him to the top of Furin, but ended up in Shishitoran because of a disagreement. In the end, Hiragi defeats Sakota with a punch to the stomach, showing he's still the man. The fallen Sakota acknowledges that Hiragi always cared about him, but still feels the frustration of not following the path he wanted. Hiragi carries Sakota out of the ring, showing he still cares even as rivals. Now it's Sakura's turn to face Jagami, the vice leader of Shishitoran. Sakura is all pumped, but Jagami is fast and manages to take him down easily. Sakura, however, doesn't give up and starts to match Jagami's speed, landing a few hits. Jagami mocks Sakura, saying Furin is just a bunch of decorations that make noise with Thuand, but break when they fall. Sakura, fired up, fights back with everything he's got and starts to surprise the audience, landing several blows on Jagami. In the end, Jagami manages to react and knock Sakura down with a hit to the stomach, but the kiddie's still on his feet, ready to continue the fight. The Shishitoran audience is in shock, and Naire is surprised by Sakura's strength. The fight is far from over, and Sakura is determined to prove that Furin isn't just some decoration. While the Shishitoran crowd cheers for their fighter, Suo realizes the fight isn't over yet. Sakura even down starts to get up, saying that Jagami talks big but his gang's actions don't match. He mocks them, suggesting Shishitoran should change their name to the Weak Links Teacup Club, since they only beat up people who are already down and pick on younger kids. Sakura swears he'll never forgive Shishadoran for that. Jogami lifts his foot to kick Sakura again, but surprisingly, he misses on purpose, hitting the ground next to the kid. He admits he didn't know about everything Sakura had mentioned. Meanwhile, Minoru and Kugahara, who were watching, get scared when Jogami steps down from the ring and goes over to them. He asks what they were doing in the tunnel, and they, trembling, confess they were messing with some unknown kid. But they blame it on Saru Atari. Jogami starts beating them both right in front of everyone, takes off their orange jackets, and kicks them out of the gang. Toma, the leader of Shishadoran, complains about the pause and tells Jogami to get back in the ring. Back to the fight, Jogami apologizes to Sakura for making him wet and asks if they can pick up where they left off. Meanwhile, a flashback shows how Jogami joined Shishadoran. He defeated a bunch of gang members by himself, impressing Toma, who invited him to join Thetfo. Became friends. Toma explained that absolute faith and power means never giving in and always striving to be the strongest, because only then are people truly free. Jogami admired Toma, who was like a son for the gang, always having fun and inspiring others. But when Toma reached the top and became leader, he realized being the strongest wasn't as fun as imagined. He decided he wanted to train everyone to get strong, but ended up kicking out the weaker ones, saying they weren't necessary. Jogami, even though he disagreed, accepted his friend's decision and took on the responsibility of expelling the weak so that Toma could keep laughing and being loved by everyone. In the present, Sakura and Jogami keep fighting, but Sakura notices that Jogami isn't going all out. He complains, saying Shishadoran isn't showing any will to win. Jogami, reflecting, admits he doesn't know what he wants anymore. He remembers that ever since he accepted Toma's way of leading, he's simply done things he doesn't believe in, like expelling the weaker members. He realizes that unlike Sakura, who never bows to anyone, he bowed to Toma and lost his own freedom. At the end of the fight, Yogami decides not to land the final blow and gives up, saying he can't fight anymore. Everyone is shocked, especially Sakura, who is pissed because Jogami lost on purpose. An excited Toma jumps into the ring and calls for Minoru to fight, ignoring Sakura, who still wants to fight him for kicking Jogami. Minoru holds Sakura back and says it's his turn to fight now. Meanwhile, Toma starts fighting Yumiya, the leader of Furin. He says he wants to be stronger and freer than everyone else. But Yumiya notices that Toma's punches are light, like he isn't carrying any weight on his shoulders. Yumiya says that's exactly why he's sure he won't lose. The fight continues with Toma attacking like crazy, but Yumiya dodging everything, showing the kid still has a lot to learn. In the end, Sakura Lenoid reflects on the fight and realizes that even if he didn't understand everything, he managed to have a conversation with Jogami through their fists. He's still confused, but knows he has a lot to sort out with Jogami, Toma, and the fight between Yumiya and Toma continues, with the Furin leader showing that even with all of Shishadoran's strength, he won't lose that easily. So the fight goes on with Toma trying everything to take down Yumiya, but the Furin leader dodges every blow with a calmness that frustrates the kid. Finally, Toma lands a punch, but Yumiya counters immediately, knocking the boy to the ground. Even so, Toma gets up, saying he'll be free no matter what and that Yumiya won't get in his way. He keeps attacking, but Yumiya just dodges and asks what he calls freedom. Toma answers that it's having fun fighting strong guys, but Yumiya, by saying he doesn't look like he's having any fun at all. Yumiya even says Toma doesn't understand anything about himself, and that's why he's never satisfied. He says he feels sorry for the kid and his gang for having such a lost leader. Toma gets pissed and keeps trying to hit Yumiya, but with no success, until Yumiya gets tired of just dodging and sends Toma flying with a single punch. Naire comments that it's good to have Yumiya as the leader of Furin, and a hurt Toma starts having flashbacks to when he and his gang used to have fun together. In the middle of the cows, Toma freaks out, screaming that he doesn't need anything else and that the world is gray and dark for him. He reflects Stateven, though he fought non-stop, he never found what he was looking for and ended up feeling empty. He blames the gang for being weak, but Yumiya, even while getting hit, stays calm and says everything will be okay, because Toma will find the answer he needs. Toma, in a fit of rage, even chokes Yumiya, but the Furin leader remains calm, smiling and saying Thekid will get through this. Yumiya reminds Toma of a day when the two groups fought, but in the end, Toma thanked him for making it fun. He says that back then, Toma shone and had friends around him, but no, he's alone and lost. Toma starts to cry, and Yumiya gets up, holding the boy's face and asking him to remember those times. An emotional Toma finally understands that the freedom and fun he was searching for were right there in Thosmans when he was surrounded by friends, laughing and having a good time. In the end, Toma hands his orange jacket to Mamaya, saying he'll leave Shishadoran and asking Furin to take care of what's left of the gang. Jogami also tries to hand over his jacket, but Yumiya refuses, saying he doesn't want to grow the group. He proposes that the two teams be friends, comparing the fight to a party where they got to know each other better. Toma, now feeling lighter, thanks Yumiya and Seisha's truly an interesting person. After everything, the two groups get together to eat, with Yumiya devouring food and everyone following his example. Toma asks how Yumiya can have so much fun even while buying in top, and the Furin leader answers that it's because he likes to eat and have fun with everyone. He explains that for him, what's important is seeing everyone happy and laughing together. Toma reflects that deep down, he already had all that for, but lost sight of it. In the end, Yumiya hands a meat skewer to Toma and says he reached the top offering precisely to keep having fun and taking care of the town. He didn't want power for its own sake, but because it allowed him to achieve his true goal, seeing everyone happy. Toma, finally understanding, realizes that true freedom and fun were always around him, in his friends, in the simple moments he left behind. And so he starts to smile again, ready to start over. And then Toma comments again that Yumiya is amazing and that he became leader because he knows himself very well. But Yumiya denies it, saying he only took the position because he had support from people who believed in him and what he wanted to do. He explains that no one reaches the top alone, which is why he'll never lose, no matter how tough the situation gets. Sakura and Toma reflect on Yumiya's words. Toma realizes that the Furin leader carries a huge weight on his shoulders, something he didn't do, and that's why he couldn't win. After eating together, Yumiya offers Toma some bread as a gift, and the two groups say their goodbyes. Sakura looks at Jagami with gratitude before leaving. When Toma is alone with Jagami, he opens up, saying that he knows a simple apology won't fix everything. Jogami agrees, but says they'll find an answer together. They share the bread Yumiya left them, and Toma is happy with the taste, while Jagami cries and says, "Welcome back, my friend." Back in Furin territory, Sasuke, who was waiting for the group, is relieved to see them return safely. Umiya, saying everything was resolved. At Granny's diner, Umiya shows up all cheerful, but Granny notices he's covered in bandages. The group says it was all peaceful, but Granny sees that Sakura is beat. He gets lost in thought, remembering that she said he'd never reach the top alone, and now he's starting to think she was right. Umiya proposes a celebration for Sakura's first dialogue during a fight. The kids think that's kinda crazy. Umiya explains that fists are a form of dialogue, conveying feelings, and that Sakura managed to connect with Jogami that way. Sakura, kinda embarrassed, admits he started liking Jagami after the fight, but still doesn't get why that's a reason to celebrate. Yumiya says he's happy someone like Sakura moved to town and that he's a cool dude. The next day, Sakura is walking along distracted, thinking about his talk with Yumiya, when Suo and Naire pop out of nowhere and scare him at school. They get surrounded by a bunch of Furin guys wanting to know how the fight with Shishitorin went. Naire tries to explain but gets nervous from the pressure. Then Sagura shows up, one of the strongest in the class, who's all excited to find out what Sakura's aesthetic is. The kid gets flustered with all the attention, but Sugiura insists, saying he wants to understand how Sakura thinks. Later the group goes to a restaurant and Sugiura suggests a healthy dish, while still grilling Heimo about his aesthetic. Then Kiryu shows up, another strong Furin member, with a girl. Sugiura tries to call him over, but Kiryu refuses, saying it's not a good time. Sugiura, without meaning to, scares Kiryu's girl by slamming the table, and Hal apologizes, showing a more sensitive side. Suddenly, a group of troublemakers shows up wanting to fight Kiryu for defending Vigor earlier. Sakura steps in and Kiryu gets ready to throw down, and Sakura knocks one of the guys out with a punch, mocking him for picking a fight when they're so outnumbered. Sugiura, who initially seemed weak, after taking a punch, surprises everyone by easily taking down his opponent, explaining that his aesthetic is to let the enemy show what they came to do before Hemix's move. And then the chaos continues. While Sakura and Kiryu are distracted talking, one of the opponents tries Taznek attack Kiryu from behind. But Kiryu, being sharp, grabs the guy's arm and throws him right back towards Sakura, who gets at the way Kiryu is fighting. The trio keeps fighting, and Naire notices that Kiryu is basically using Sakura as the main fighter while he covers the rear. Suo yells to Kiryu that he doesn't need to worry so much since he's there to help. Kiryu thanks him, but that makes one of the guys attack Suo, who takes him down easy. Kiryu praises Suo, saying he's strong, just like the rumors say. Sakura realizes that Kiryu is only fighting like this to protect the girl he helped earlier. When Tagaistri to jump Kiryu from behind, Sakura protects him, saying he can handle the opponents himself. Kiryu thanks him, but an awkward Sakura replies that he's not doing it for him, but because it's more convenient. In the end, Sugura takes down all the guys and Sakura complains that it was way too easy. Kiryu compliments both their strength, and Sugura asks Sakura to say the Furin motto. Sakura, who doesn't know the motto, is confused, and Sugura shouts, "Whoever hurts others, destroys things, or has malice in their heart, will be eliminated by Furin." Kiryu grabs the leader of the troublemakers and tells him to use his strength for good, or he'll regret it. The guy agrees, and books it with his crew. The girl thanks Furin, and everyone is happy to have helped. except Sakura, who doesn't know how to deal with gratitude. Kiryu comments that he knew Sakura was strong since the fight with Sugishita, but was surprised by just how strong he is. Sugiura agrees. Kiryu is happy to hear that Sakura wants to reach the top. They exchange contacts, and a nervous Sakura ends up writing the wrong number, which makes everyone laugh. The next day, Sakura is at Granny's diner, distracted on his phone, when she sees he already has everyone's contact info and takes the chance to add her. Sakura, being the antisocial guy he is, doesn't get why everyone is chatting on the phone group instead of talking in person. He gets a message from Nirei asking if they're going to choose the class captain, and Sakura gets curious about what that means, but the subject changes quickly, leaving him even more lost. In the classroom, Sakura asks for explanations about what a class captain is, and Suo reassures him, saying they'll talk about it soon. Then Inamoto shows up, the second-year captain, with his vice Kusumoto and Kaji. They explain that the class captain is responsible for the class and any problems it causes. Suo suggests Sakura fourth role. Everyone agrees, since he's strong and has already helped a lot. Sakura gets nervous and tries to push their responsibility onto Sugishita, who ignores him. Suo says that Sakura can be captain and he'll be vice along with Nirei. Sakura doesn't know what to do, thinking that being captain is similar to being a leader, something he doesn't feel ready for. He compares himself to Yumiya and Tuma, realizing he just wants to prove his worth, not lead. While he's thinking, Kaji, who's wearing headphones and listening to loud music, yells for everyone to decide already and picks Sakura as captain. Inamoto confirms the choice and Sakura panics, but Suo reminds him he's not alone and can count on the help of the vices and his friends. After class, Sakura and his crew follow Kaji and his vices in patrol. They get the task of finding a little cat named Arisa, who ran away from home. Kaji tells Kusumoto to delegate the task, and Sakura is impressed with how the second-year captain leads. Sakura decides that they're going to find the cat, and Suo shares his determination in the group chat, getting everyone pumped. During the chase, Sakura uses Hiskels to jump from roof to roof after the cat, while Kaji jumps into the water to catch her. In Dand, the kitten is rescued, and the old lady thanks Firen, especially Kaji. The second-year captain tells Theket not to run away again. Sakura watches everything, trying to learn how to be a good captain while thinking about their responsibility he just got. Then Sakura lets the lady thank Firen, and goes to Kaji to ask questions about being captain. He remembers Yumiya said he only reached the top because he had everyone's support. So he asks Kaji what he wants to do, imagining the guy became captain, because he had a goal. But to Sakura's surprise, Kaji didn't even choose to be captain. He just took the role because his friends asked him to. Sakura realizes it was the same for him and gets confused, thinking that doesn't make sense. Kaji kinda annoyed, but seeing Sakura is lost, explains that he's not good at bringing people together like Inamoto or even communicating like Kusumoto. So he trusts his vices and does his best to meet their expectations. Sakura wonders if that means he doesn't need his own goal or if meeting others' expectations is enough. Meanwhile, Nirei and Suo show up with snacks they got for finding the kitten. Suo praises Sakura for not losing sight of the cat and says they can count on him. Sakura asks if they pushed him to be captain because they trusted him, and Suo confirms, asking him to also trust him. Later, Sakura shows up at Granny's diner, all tired and with dark circles under his eyes after spending sleepless nights thinking about what to do as captain. Granny notices he was chosen and thinks it's cool, but Sakura complains that he doesn't know what to do. She suggests he start by learning everyone's name and face in the class, since heckling someone by their name is a way of recognizing them. Sakura gets embarrassed and runs off when Granny and an old lady try to make him practice. The next day, Sakura asks Nirei to help him memorize his classmates' names, but gets overwhelmed with all the info. Suo asks if he's understanding the responsibilities of being captain, but Sakura just gets more embarrassed. Kiryu shows up and teases him, asking if he remembers their name. Nirei tries to help, but Sakura gets even more confused. Then Yumiya calls all the captains and vice for a meeting. Sakura panics, realizing that on top of memorizing his class's names, he also has to know the captains from other grades. Nirei tries to calm him down, saying he knows everyone in the school Bekos. He asked for a student list. He explains that, since he can't help in fights, he decided to contribute by memorizing names and faces. Suo is impressed and decides he'll handle negotiations, since he's good at getting people to accept his proposals. Sakura realizes his friends are well prepared and awkwardly calls them by their names, showing he's trying to adapt to the captain role. Then Yumiya shows up with the 4 Heavenly Kings offering, and Nirei gets all nervous explaining who they are. Yumiya starts the meeting talking about the explanations, confusing everyone, until Hiragi cuts him off and tells him to focus. Yumiya then talks about the importance of everyone helping each other, no matter where they are. After the meeting, Sakura meets more people, including Matsumoto from the Toman group, who he saw on his first day in town. Yumiya says he's counting on Sakura on his vices, but that they can ask the more experienced guys for help. Since they're like older brothers, Kaji, though, says Sakura is gonna have to figure things out on his own, since he's not his brother. Later, during a patrol, Sakura and the group run into 3 guys in hoodies who say they're looking for Furin but don't specify who for. They leave, making the group suspicious. Right after they find Anzai, a classmate, all beat up. He makes up a story about being attacked by a giant dog, but Sakura can tell he's lying. Suo suspects Anzai had trouble with school, a dangerous gang. Sakura decides to investigate. He finds out Anzai is trying to save his childhood friend, Nagato, who got mixed up with school. Anzai didn't want to involve Furin, but Sakura insists on helping, saying he made a promise to Sukiya, Anzai's friend. In the end, the whole first year, class decides to go with Anzai to face school, showing that they're rather to help a friend, not just as boyfriend, but as buddies.